What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, UNLV is about to play a bowl game against a team that doesn't have a head coach, and nobody knows why. Plus, it's Kenny Pickett time in Las Vegas. Is that a good thing? And Carter Hart is back in Philadelphia today, but the Golden Knights, are they hiding him from the Philly crowd? You can sponsor Technically Correct. Just send me an email, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com, and we will make it work. Again, if you want to sponsor the show, you want to help me out, that's where you can get in touch, and we can do something fun with this show. So technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com, that's where you can get in touch with me. I appreciate everybody that's reached out to me. We've had some fun stuff already. We got a couple other fun things coming up in the future as well, but technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. Here we go. Did UNLV football hit their peak as a program over the last 3 seasons? It's 30 wins over 3 seasons with a bowl game left to make it 32. 3 appearances in a conference title game, had a legitimate chance to make the college football playoff last season had they beaten Boise State in the Mountain West title game. Is this as good as it gets? Next year, the Mountain West is going to be drastically worse. San Diego State's gone. Boise State's gone. A couple other schools are gone. UTEP and Northern Illinois are coming in, but UNLV is going to be the one of, if not the favorite, to win the Mountain West. And depending on your outlook, that could be good or bad. Good in that UNLV has a better chance to get to 10-plus wins in a weaker conference, but bad because the conference might be so weak that going 11-1 is the only way to get ranked 25th, like James Madison in the Sun Belt this year going into their conference title game. So the likelihood that UNLV wins 10 or more in a weaker conference is higher, but the likelihood of that meaning anything for a playoff spot is lower. And here's my question for UNLV fans. What are your expectations for the football program now? Right? Are the years of being one of the worst programs in Division I football, is that still weighing what your expectations are? Right? Are you still happy with just any level of winning? Or is 30 wins in 3 years, is that setting a new standard for you? And here's the hypothetical. If UNLV goes 7-5 next season, are you disappointed? Or are you still happy because UNLV football going to any bowl game is an achievement for this program? The general sentiment has been happy to be here. Isn't all of this fun? But has that changed for you after 3 years, the best 3 years in program history? Has that changed to where, no, 7-5 is not good enough. 7-5 is not a good season. This team should be at the top of the conference. That's what I'm curious to see going forward for UNLV as a football program. Because here's a stat for you. This UNLV team was 9 points away from 7-5. They went 10-3, and I'm not here to take away from them going 10-3, right? But we all know that wasn't a great team. Of the last 3 years, this was the worst of the 3 UNLV football teams, right? They feasted on one of the easiest schedules in college football. Their strength of schedule ended up at 121. There's 136 teams in Division I college football. UNLV, they played one team that finished in the top 60 of SPS+. They played Boise State twice. That's the team. They got smoked twice there, right? Their best win of the season was probably the game against Hawaii. They were 68th in SP+ this season. And ultimately, 13 games, they played one FCS team and 5 games against teams that were ranked outside of the top 100 in SPS+. Not really their fault for scheduling, right? The Mountain West was weak this year. They did have UCLA on the schedule, but they were hilariously bad in the first half of the season. So it's not like UNLV screwed up scheduling. It's just what happened. Now, we knew all this. We knew the schedule was easy, and we knew this team struggled, right? I mean, they came out struggling against Idaho State, the very first game of the year, an FCS team, a bad Air Force team. That game was simply who had the ball left. And then, listen, they probably should have lost to Utah State. If Utah State's kicker doesn't have like the worst game I've ever seen from a kicker, they lose to Utah State. So it's not like I'm telling you anything that you didn't know. But again, my question sort of comes back to expectations. Do we just say 7-5 is great, right? If this team goes 7-5, that's fantastic. Or does this team have higher expectations? Does this team say, hey, or I should say, asking the fan base, does this fan base say, hey, no, 7-5 is not good enough. This team should be pushing for double-digit wins, and with the new Mountain West, this team should be pushing to win that conference, at least be a contender going into the end of the season. So that's what I'm curious about with UNLV fans. What are your expectations now? Because 3 years is a long time, but it's actually not that long in terms of college football. And all of a sudden, UNLV has gone from the doormat where there are the lowest expectations in all of college football to, that's 30 wins in 3 years. So yeah, 7-5 probably is bad next season. By the way, next season, the non-conference schedule, I believe there's one game that's left to be announced, but Cal is coming to Vegas, and they have 2 road games, North Texas and Akron. I'm assuming the other game will be an FCS team at home, but we'll see. But those are 3 losable games. Cal wasn't very good this year, but they are still a power conference team. So you're not going to look at that and say, oh yeah, UNLV is going to beat Cal. Akron is not a great program, and they were not very good this season either. It's on the road, so that might make it a little bit trickier, but UNLV probably should be beating Akron. North Texas was obviously very good this season. You're on the road. Presumably that could be a very tough one to actually win. But all 3 of them, none of them you look at and say, oh yeah, UNLV is easily going to win those games. So, a 2-2 non-conference schedule is definitely a possibility, which then means, you win 4, go 4-4 in conference play, and that's just 6-6 on the season. So we'll see what the actual schedule looks like with the one more game, but it could be a little difficult going into next season. By the way, I had one thing that I forgot to get to earlier in the week on the Mountain West Championship game. The Mountain West gave out purple crowns to the offensive and defensive players of the game, and I love a silly trophy. I love when you can do a dumb thing, a fun thing, whatever it is, with some sort of trophy or award. And I loved this. 2 crowns for the best defensive and offensive player of the year. Yes, please. But here's my problem. I went back and looked. Utah State won the Mountain West volleyball tournament shortly before the football tournament was played, football championship game was played. Didn't see any purple crowns handed out to the MVP of the Mountain West volleyball tournament. What are we doing, Mountain West? This is an easy gimmick. This is probably a cheap gimmick. You get some crowns at Spirit Halloween and start handing them out at every single tournament or championship game. Basketball better have it. They better have purple crowns for who is the MVP of the Mountain West basketball tournaments. Don't blow this one. Now, UNLV's playing in the Frisco Bowl, and they're playing Ohio. However, Ohio's probably not going to have their head coach for this game. And no, it's not because he got poached by a bigger job and he's taking that one, right? He's stepping up in the world to a power conference and they said, you don't get to coach the Frisco Bowl, come recruit for us. It's not that. Brian Smith, the head coach at Ohio, who's in his first season, by the way, he was placed on leave on December 1st by Ohio University. And Ohio didn't say why or for how long. According to Smith's attorney, Smith was asked to leave in the middle of the workday without any explanation for why he was going on paid leave. Front Office Sports has a story with an interesting detail about December 1st, the day that he was placed on leave. It said the school, had they fired Smith before December 1st, it would have owed him his entire salary left on his contract, which is equal to about $2.5 million. If Smith leaves, though, he would have owed his new employer that same amount back. So he would have had to pay Ohio University $2.5 million. So December 1st, apparently an important date here. Front Office Sports also reported that Smith finalized a divorce on Tuesday of this week, but the attorney of his ex-wife basically said, we don't know why he was put on leave, but it's nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the divorce. So I guess we can rule that out. Good reporting for Front Office Sports. But it's been 11 days now since Ohio basically suspended their head coach and haven't said anything about it. Has to be getting fired, right? You just come back from leave where nobody says anything about why you're gone? I don't think so. And Ohio just says, oh, sorry about that. You're all good now. So I'm guessing he's fired from that job and he's not coming back for the bowl game. But if you're Ohio University, how are you not saying anything? You're suspending what I assume is the highest paid employee of the university. And you just suspend him with pay and silence if we don't get any reasoning why? I don't know. Seems bizarre. For the bowl game, Ohio's defensive coordinator is the interim head coach. So UNLV's going to play a team without a head coach. How much is that actually going to matter? I don't know. Probably not a ton, but we shall see exactly what happens. Last thing in college football I wanted to get to. Earlier in the week, Jeff Choate, who's the head coach at Nevada, he was talking to the media, and he was talking about recruiting and recruiting pitches to players. And Jeff Choate said, you know what happens when you come to Nevada? You go get $1.4 million to go to Oregon. If you're developed the right way, a guy that couldn't play consistently at the University of Texas got drafted when he came here. A guy that was a junior college walk-on ended up being first team All Mountain West and went and got a bag at West Virginia. He went on to talk about a few different players and different scenarios that Nevada has recruited. But Jeff Choate and his recruiting pitch, well, one was basically, we'll do anything we can to get you out of Reno. To be fair, he did say before this that his players love being in Reno and they love Reno, but it is funny to say, hey, get the hell out of here. But I actually don't hate Jeff Choate for saying this because this is reality, is it not? I mean, first off, any college football or basketball program right now, you should basically be expecting every player you bring in to be a one-year player. I think that should be your expectation, that you're going to turn over the vast majority of the roster every single year. If you're at the top of the sport, the NFL draft or the NBA draft is coming for your players. And then anywhere in the sport, transfers coming for your players. The transfer portal's coming for your players, right? Guys are transferring up. Guys are also transferring down. You might be losing a player you recruited and you thought, hey, he'll be a backup, he'll be depth, and maybe in year 2 or 3 he plays for us more. But he didn't get much playing time in year 1, and now he's gone to a Mountain West school to go actually play football. You're going to lose guys for so many reasons, and I think the expectation should just be you're going to be replacing this roster, and so you should, as a coach at Nevada, or really any group of 5, be looking at players as okay, how do we help each other? You come here, maybe for a year, maybe for more, but look at the success that players have had after they've left us, right? You can go to Oregon and get that $1.4 million NIL. Maybe you end up getting drafted, right? You come junior college to Nevada, and then you're at West Virginia getting another NIL deal. I don't hate Jeff Choate saying that. Yes, it's a bad look for Nevada and any group of 5 to basically say, we're a minor league team, we're a feeder team to these bigger programs. But isn't that the reality of this? Isn't that what happens across the board in college football and college basketball? If you have a good season at a smaller school, you're probably going to get recruited in the transfer portal and offered significantly more money. So I don't hate this from Jeff Choate. Now, it sucks for fans, right? Yes, it's hard for coaches to deal with and players. I don't know, maybe you're getting lied to more from coaches than you used to be in the past. But I think it really sucks for fans because, like, if you're a college football fan and your favorite team, right? Who's your favorite player? Oh, he's gone after 12 games. Who is your team's best player? Oh, he's gone after 12 games, right? Like, yes, it's accurate. We cheer for laundry in sports. It's a very accurate joke. But the fun of being a sports fan, right, is obviously winning, but like having favorite players and watching players that you like. When your team has a really fun player to watch, a really good player to watch, that's part of being a sports fan. That's part of what's great about it. And the roster turnover is brutal. It's terrible in college sports, right? It's always been fast turnover because it's 4 to 5 years of eligibility, and there has been transfers and drafts that take players early. But it's even worse now to where what's happening with your favorite players, right? I assume we're going to see player contracts in the future. I know there have been some stories about a possible CBA and the need for that in college sports, but I assume we're going to see some form of contracts that could tie players to universities for longer. Maybe you sign a 3-year deal out of high school, and so you might be able to get out of it, but you're kind of locked in for a few years. So I assume we'll see that, but those also might end up being a bunch of 1-year contracts and not solve this problem either. I am pro player movement. I think if you have a great season somewhere like Nevada and Oregon is offering you $1.4 million to come play football there, and Nevada can offer you $85,000 or whatever, you should absolutely be allowed to take that. That's life-changing money for something that you might not even be able to do at the professional level, right? Like it's a very short career, especially if you can't even get to the professional levels. Players should be allowed to take that and make that money. It's great for them. It just sucks for fans to be like, hey, my favorite players are gone. And, the coach is promoting that because that's the reality of it. And that's probably the only way that Nevada can build a good roster. By the way, when are they going to do that? Can we get some competitive Fremont Cannon games for me? That's what I would like to see. And now it's time for Bischoff's Briefs. I wish you had waited to do that. Bischoff's Briefs is brought to you by Go Army, Beat Navy. Thanks to Rob for sponsoring Bischoff's Briefs for this entire week ahead of the Army-Navy game. We're cheering for Army now. I've not had a rooting interest in it, but Go Army, Beat Navy, and thanks to Rob for using the opportunity to sponsor a segment in a brand new podcast just to trash talk Navy. I would not have it any other way. The pettiness is excellent, Rob. Now, Geno Smith is not likely to start this week for the Raiders. He didn't practice yesterday. Pete Carroll said he was day-to-day. Ian Rappaport reported that it's unlikely that he plays due to his shoulder injury, which would mean Kenny Pickett would be the quarterback. 2 gloves, Kenny Pickett, by the way. I like that. He wore 2 gloves when he played against Denver. But fun fact, Kenny Pickett is actually 15-10 as a starter in his career. Now, he's never been on a team this bad, so I wouldn't expect him to be at a 15-10 win percentage here if he plays the last 4 games of the year. But the funniest possible outcome here is that Pickett plays really well. Like way better than Geno Smith has the entire year, right? Like we see Jack Besh have huge games because Kenny Pickett's throwing him the ball. That's the funniest outcome, right? It'd be bad because they might win some games and not pick first, but that's the funny part. The unfortunate part about this is that even if Kenny Pickett has a good 4 games, it means nothing because you don't want Kenny Pickett as your starter next year, and all it does is decrease your chances of getting the number 1 pick in the draft and a quarterback. The other part that I'm actually a little disappointed by is Kenny Pickett is not a mobile quarterback. He actually might be the most mobile quarterback of the 3 on the roster. He's certainly more than Aiden O'Connell and going to be more than Geno Smith, but he's not a mobile quarterback. And I'm really kind of curious, what would a mobile quarterback look like behind this offensive line? Like, is there actual plays to be made, or I guess plays to not be lost to sacks with a guy that could move more than Geno Smith? Because Geno's just back there, and if there's pressure, he's getting taken down. Would there be an opportunity? Pickett's more mobile than Geno Smith, but not really. Maybe he will be, but I'm not expecting him to do much, and I would have liked to have at least seen that, but we're not going to see that. We're going to see 2 gloves Kenny Pickett out there behind the same offensive line, but maybe not the same offensive line because Colton Miller returned to practice. He's been out since week 4 with an ankle injury. Offensive line was bad when he was playing, but it's been even worse without their best offensive lineman. Only good offensive lineman, I think. and I said this before, but despite the Raiders being better off losing games, right? They need the higher draft pick. I don't have any issue with bringing back Colton Miller, right? Players do not get to play long in the NFL. If they want to play, even in a lost season, he should be out there if healthy. Don't rush him back early, but if Colton Miller is healthy for 4, 3, 2, or even just the last game of the season, he should be playing. Don't take that away from him. Also on the injury front, Dante Thornton, the rookie wide receiver, he passed concussion protocol and returned to practice. He missed games last week, or he missed the game last week. But the wide receiver pecking order last week was Trey Tucker, then Jack Besh, then Tyler Lockett. I'm curious where Dante Thornton fits into that. A little bit different wide receiver from Besh and Lockett. But 4th round pick, came out of training camp as a starter. He had 94 yards in the first 3 games. Wasn't great, but he was a part of the offense. After those first 3 games, he's got 29 yards the rest of the entire season. So is he anything, right? Is he legitimately anything, or is this just he can be the 5th wide receiver on the roster last year because we drafted him, but he's nothing more than that next season. Also in Las Vegas, A'ja Wilson was named the Associated Press's Female Athlete of the Year. The Aces won their 3rd WNBA title in 4 years, and A'ja Wilson won her 4th MVP. She also won Defensive Player of the Year and Finals MVP. Dominant season in the WNBA. There were 47 votes for this. She got 17 of them. Second place was Aryna Sabalenka, who won 3 of the 4 tennis Grand Slams, but she only got 9 votes, and then Paige Beckers was 3rd with 5, and then there were a bunch of people that got between 1 and 4 votes. So she didn't get a huge share of the votes, but pretty dominant overall in the voting by the Associated Press. So A'ja Wilson, best female athlete in the entire world this year, according to the Associated Press. Now, we do need to talk for at least a second here about Sherrone Moore, the head coach at Michigan, or was the head coach at Michigan. Michigan fired Sherrone Moore yesterday, and in their firing said it was due to an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. That's important because it means there's no buyout money. If you get fired for cause, and the cause can't just be losing football games, the cause has to be something like this, you don't get the buyout money as a college coach. Sherrone Moore was also arrested yesterday. I have not seen the only updates I've seen is that the police department that arrested him was not giving specifics as to why they arrested him, at least to the public. So he was arrested. I'm guessing at some point you're listening to this, we might know details on why he was arrested. But there had been rumors, specifically from Michigan State fans, about Sherrone Moore getting a staff member at Michigan pregnant, starting 2 weeks ago. And apparently it might have been true. Apparently that might have been completely accurate. That a rival fan's message boards was spreading a rumor about Sherrone Moore that actually wasn't a rumor. It was actually the truth. College football, the drama just never stops, and we'll see what actually happens with Sherrone Moore. The arrest part is concerning. What was he actually arrested for? That seems like it could be a big time problem. But Michigan no longer has a coach. In the coaching carousel world now, there's a big time job open. I mean, LSU was open, but now Michigan's open, and they're both in the same tier of college football. Nicole Auerbach, who covers college football for The Athletic, she tweeted out that Kalen DeBoer was a name to watch for this. That's the current head coach at Alabama. I'm not 100% sure why, and I've seen actually a couple other people talk about this. I'm not 100% sure why, though. DeBoer in Michigan, I don't know what the connection is there, but apparently that could be the case or could be an option. But I tell you, that would be hilarious. It's one thing for a group of 5 school to lose their coach. It's one thing for Ole Miss to lose their coach to LSU, in conference rival. If Alabama, of all schools, loses their coach to another college, I mean, that's hilarious, right? They're in the playoffs too. So I don't know how the timing works, but they're in the playoffs. So I don't know why, but apparently Kalen DeBoer is a name that people think would take the Michigan job, or at least be interested in the Michigan job, which would set off. I mean, can you imagine Alabama loses in the first or second round of the playoffs? They lose their head coach at the end of December, beginning of January, and now Alabama's hiring a new coach? I mean, they can pick just about anybody they want in college football. Lane Kiffin. That's my theory, by the way. Lane Kiffin actually wants the Alabama job, not the LSU job. That would be quite great. But I'm kind of cheering for it because it would be the funniest way that we could see this season not even end, just during the college football playoff. Alabama's trying to poach coaches in the college football playoff. In hockey, the St. Louis Blues signed Dylan Dube, not to an NHL contract, not even to a full AHL contract. They actually signed him to a tryout for their AHL team. So he's going to be with the Blues AHL team on this tryout contract. But Dylan Dube, why am I talking to you about the Blues signing a guy to an AHL tryout? Dylan Dube was one of the 5 players acquitted in the sexual assault trial over the summer, like Carter Hart. Obviously, the Golden Knights signed Carter Hart to a NHL deal, but the Carolina Hurricanes have Cal Foote on their AHL team, and now Dylan Dube is probably going to be on the AHL team for the Blues. And I think this is, if you remember one of the shows I did in the first week, one of my key points was trying to talk about, like, as a fan, what should you care, like, or what should matter to you as a fan? And this is one of them, right? There's anger towards the Golden Knights, and I think it's justified to criticize these teams, especially when they say hypocritical things, right? When as a team you sign Carter Hart and then you say he aligns with our core values. Shut up, right? The Blues did the same thing. They signed Dylan Dube and they threw core values in their statement. No, you don't get to sign the guy in a sexual assault trial with all these details about, yes, they were acquitted, but the details of the case are not good. That's not your core values. You don't get to sign that and say, we have great core values. So the teams deserve criticism. But as a fan, you're probably going to get a lot of crap, if you haven't already, from other teams' fans about having Carter Hart. But this is why it doesn't matter. Other teams are going to do this. Other teams were going to do this if it wasn't the Golden Knights. And you as a fan, you don't have any control over whether your favorite team signs Carter Hart. I guess you could stop being a fan of him. But again, who are you going to be a fan of? What if I'm giving up on the Golden Knights. I'm a Blues fan. Oh my God, you got to give up on the Blues now. So as a fan, like, this happens in sports, and this is exactly why you should never be like, oh my God, I can't believe my favorite team would do this, because of course they would. And of course all the other teams would too. That's just how they actually operate. It's what we see in sports all the time. Nonstop in sports is this. Guys get second chances. And whether it's justified or not that they were in trouble or not in trouble, it happens all the time. So don't take anything from other teams' fan bases because your team signed Carter Hart. Look at other teams. They're doing it as well. This has been Bischoff's Briefs. A shout out to Rob for sponsoring Bischoff's Briefs. Go Army, beat Navy. So again, a big thank you to Rob for sponsoring Bischoff's Briefs this week ahead of Army and Navy. If you want to sponsor anything, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. By the way, if you just want to give me feedback, please email me at technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com and just let me know something you like or don't like about the show. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and I'm happy with the amount of feedback that I've gotten from a bunch of different people. I really do appreciate that. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work, and you guys are what's important. You guys are the ones that are going to listen to this, watch this. So let me know what you think works or doesn't work, or what you would see or don't want to see on this show. I will take it to heart. I might not do it. I might disagree with you, but I will absolutely take your recommendations to heart. So let me know, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com, if you've got any suggestions, ideas, things you hate, things you love. I will read it. I will let you know. Now, are the Golden Knights trying to hide Carter Hart from Philadelphia fans? The Golden Knights take on the Flyers today. Carter Hart is probably not going to play because He played back-to-back games. The Golden Knights, since getting Carter Hart, have alternated games between Akira Schmid and Carter Hart. That was until their last game when they played Carter Hart for the second straight game, the first time they broke that trend. But if you're looking at the schedule and how it lines up, oh, they're playing Philadelphia next, and had they stuck to the schedule, Carter Hart would be playing against the team that he started his career with, the team that he was on when he had to stop playing because he was accused of sexual assault. He's been acquitted of sexual assault. That is why he's back in the NHL and playing for the Golden Knights. Not guilty of that. But are the Golden Knights hiding him from the Philly crowd? It certainly seems like it. I can't think of another reason for Bruce Cassidy to actually change the goalie rotation. So it would certainly seem as though they are trying to shield Carter Hart from the Philadelphia crowd. I would say, though, part of me doesn't buy it, because even though I can't think of a better reason to why they changed the goalie rotation, Carter Hart's going to have to play in adverse environments. Like, it's professional sports. Carter Hart's not just going to get to go and play in front of crowds that love him. Most crowds are not going to love him. So why would they hide him from Philadelphia? I don't know. So I think there might be another reason that we just don't know. And I'd love to actually see it, but it certainly appears as though they're hiding him from Philadelphia, even though he's going to have to play in big environments. I mean, if they make it to the playoffs and Carter Hart plays in playoff games, the environment's too rough for Carter Hart? That can't be a reasoning. Wouldn't be on the team. So I am curious why they've changed the rotation. Maybe it's because they didn't want him to play in Philadelphia. I do wonder this, though, on the Golden Knights and the goaltending spot here. Do they want Carter Hart to be the number one goalie? And by they, I specifically mean like the front office. I don't know that Bruce Cassidy cares too much, but Carter Hart's made a couple of starts now, 3 starts now. The last one against the Islanders wasn't great. He tanked his save percentage back under 900. It's 889 now. His goal saved above average is negative. I love small sample sizes. But the reason I ask about like number one goalie is because it comes back to Adin Hill. Adin Hill is in year 1 of a 6-year contract with a cap hit over $6 million. The Golden Knights just gave out this number one goalie contract to Adin Hill. And yes, as we've watched this season, the Golden Knights have needed better goaltending, right? There had been too much of Carl Lindbaum. Schmid's been an average goalie this year, but they need better goaltending because Adin Hill's been hurt. But they were signing Carter Hart before Adin Hill got hurt. I mean, the reports were they were going to sign Carter Hart before the season even started. So this is something they were planning to do if Adin Hill had stayed healthy. So I'm curious sort of what their thoughts are. Maybe there's not we need a true number one. Maybe they're hoping to just have a good tandem out of Hill and Hart when they're both healthy. And Hart was cheaper than his talent should have been because of a sexual assault trial. Maybe that's the plan. But again, Adin Hill's in year 1 of a 6-year deal that's paying him over $6 million per season. They gave out that contract as if he was going to be the number one goalie. So I'm always a little interested, a little curious in how the front office views their goaltending situation and sort of what they expect to happen, but also what they want to happen. Got one last thing on the Golden Knights for you. And I want to go back to yesterday's discussion where I asked, is this an average team, right? They're going to overtime 41% of the time. If you throw in regulation games that end in 1-goal margins, we're at nearly 60% of their games being decided by 1 goal. Are they an average team? Because they tend to play the same level as their opponent in every single game. But here's something to juxtapose that with. The Pacific Division sucks. The Athletic had like a brief breakdown of each division in the NHL last week. They did a positive and a negative for each division. And the positive for the Pacific was like kind of fun chaos. The Ducks have been upstarts, but also mentioned, Vegas is hanging around as a potential legitimate contender. And maybe Edmonton as well, whatever the hell they're doing. But this was the negative. On paper, it's the worst division in terms of points percentage. The Pacific has scored the fewest goals of any division while giving up the second most. It's feasting on loser points, with only Anaheim having actually won more games than it's lost while a shameful 5 teams are a fake 500. I love the phrase fake 500. It looks like the division will produce only 3 playoff teams, and whoever comes out of the Pacific in May will get absolutely steamrolled by the Central rep. He's referring to the conference finals. So, is the Pacific team going to get crushed in the conference finals by the Colorado Avalanche or whoever comes out of the Central? Possibly. It's possible that Colorado steamrolls everybody. By the way, if you can hear that, Churro is licking his leg profusely over here. Good job, Churro. But divisional strength and or weakness, and what does it matter? And here's the key for the Golden Knights. It matters because of the way the playoffs are set up. Because in theory, the Golden Knights can get to the conference finals by beating just 2 other teams from the Pacific, or maybe a wild card team from the Central. Maybe the Central wild card team comes in and wrecks the Pacific. That would be funny. But in theory, the Golden Knights can make it to the conference finals without beating another good team. They can beat other average teams and be one of the final 4 teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think that's important when we're looking at this season, because the Golden Knights have not been playing as well as we thought they were. They do not look like a true cup contender, but they don't have to right now. They're still getting enough loser points that they are high in the standings. Their place in the standings is perfectly fine. And for this team, really, it's going to come down to how well do they play in the playoffs. And they might be able to get through the first 2 rounds without even playing well because of the opponents, which would mean how well will they play when they play Colorado or whoever in the conference finals if they make it that far. The problem, though, is that if they play this way the entire year, they just play average or maybe a little above average, and they win the Pacific or finish second, whatever it is, it's going to be hard to look at them and say, oh, yeah, they're going to turn it on now that the playoffs here, right? I don't believe in that a team can just sort of be coasting the regular season and then, oh, yeah, we're good enough to just say, it's showtime, it's playoff time, let's go. So I think we still need to see it at some point, see them play well for 15, 20 games at a time and say, there they are. But the division is bad, and the Golden Knights still have a real chance to do something in the postseason because of that, regardless of how they worked. Dom Lucian of The Athletic I think he does daily updates on chances to win the Stanley Cup. Golden Knights has sort of been in that 3-4 range recently. Despite how they've played, they're 3rd or 4th most likely to win the Stanley Cup. And again, a lot of that in his models comes down to, well, what are you likely to make the Stanley Cup, to make the conference finals, to make the playoffs? And because of the Pacific Division and this playoff format, somebody, again, a wild card team could do it from the Central, but because of the format, somebody from the Pacific is likely going to be in the conference finals, and most likely that team is the Golden Knights. So that could possibly be the saving grace for how they've looked this year. By the way, I looked this up. I don't know if it matters so much, but just comparison of the Golden Knights and their opponents based on division. Against the Pacific, they're 4-0-4. So again, good news, they don't lose in regulation, but they've lost as many as they've won against the Pacific Division. Against the rest of the NHL, they're 10-6-5. So there's some regulation losses in there, but it's 4 wins, 4 losses against the Pacific. It's 10 wins and 11 losses against the rest of the NHL, which again, I keep sort of trying to bring up here. It doesn't matter who they play, they're going to overtime. That's just the reality of it. They play a bad team, a good team, whatever it is, they're just going to play to that level, and we're likely to see an overtime game. And as far as divisional opponent, that has not mattered either. So we'll see tonight. They play the Flyers. Maybe they should just at 4:00 say, you want to play 3-on-3 for 5 minutes and go home? They might be able to do that. So we'll see how they do against the Flyers in the second to last game of this road trip, East Coast road trip. So far, been solid for the Golden Knights. 2 wins and an overtime loss. We'll see how they do against Philadelphia. But this has been Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Thank you so much for tuning in.